You ready for this?
Oh, I'm definitely ready for this. The question is, are you guys ready for this?
Where are you going? Hey everyone, I'm Coach.
And I'm Mustard Seed.
And we're the Trail Guys. We want to take a moment and welcome you to our YouTube channel, and most especially, welcome you to the Trail family.
We wanted to take this opportunity to explain a little bit about who we are. Who are the Trail Guys? What got us in the outdoors? And what do we love about backpacking? And we're also going to explain what's going to be coming in 2020. But to do that, we're going to start off with 5 interview questions coming at you now.
Okay, what got me into backpacking? I guess growing up, my family, we spent a lot of time outdoors. We would go to Bryson City, North Carolina, to Deep Creek. My brother, my mom, my dad, and I, we started off in this old, probably Kmart tent. This is a huge thing that had big aluminum poles. I can remember going to Black Rock Mountain in North Georgia, and we camped out, spent the whole weekend in the tent because it rained the whole time. And I remember eating these oatmeal raisin, like frosted cookies. I still can taste those cookies, and being in this blue tent and just being stuck in there. I think we actually were able to get out for maybe a couple of hours and then set everything up, you know, in the pouring rain, stayed in the tent, broke everything down, got home, had to set it all back up again to keep it from mildewing. And I lived sort of in a rural area and had 2 friends, and we would set the tent up in the backyard. We'd camp out in the tent. We ended up progressively getting a little bit farther and farther away from home in where we would camp out. I always had an interest in hiking, but no one ever really around that to hike with. As I got older and got married, we started maybe camping out in a pop-up, graduated to a camper, so yeah, I was a glamper for a while. And then as Mustard Seed was born and got a little bit older, he became interested in scouts. I started camping with him a little bit, scouting. The scout troop that we were involved with was a smaller troop, but we tried to really focus on doing things with less. We didn't take big patrol boxes of food out with us and all this big heavy equipment. We always camped very lightly. As a matter of fact, I'll tell a story later on about how when we took the boys on the AT for a hike, that you know, we had carried boys that didn't even take tents with them. So I've always enjoyed getting out. I always enjoyed getting on the trail. I've always enjoyed being out in nature and, you know, spending the night out in the open. So I guess it's been a part of my history as long as I can remember. I've been outdoors and just had a love of nature.
So I guess what got me into camping was just being raised with it in my life. Essentially, from an early age, I remember camping in the living room, camping in the backyard, and then as I got a little bit older, I started glamping a little bit, moved into camping in a camper with my grandparents with all the amenities and everything. And then when I was about 12, I joined a Boy Scout troop, and thankfully our troop was really small, and so I really got the opportunity to experience the outdoors with just a few boys and a few adults there to supervise. But we were essentially just put on our own, and we got to decide what we did and when we did it. And so I was lucky to have been in a group with boys that wanted to get outdoors and wanted to go hiking. And so that's what we planned, and it was our goal in mind to get outdoors at least once a month, possibly even twice a month if we could, you know, afford it and make it happen. But it was just taking those little steps throughout scouting to learn a little bit, like, hey, you can pack this way, or you can take this tent, or heck, you don't even need a tent to go camping, that just really lit that fire. And going through scouts and being able to experience it with a bunch of friends and being able to experience with my dad really just lit that fire inside. And now I just continue to enjoy it. I'm in school right now at UGA for forestry, to essentially just keep me outdoors, and just keep that fire going. So what got me into backpacking was definitely a culmination of all those things, and still an enjoyment. I mean, I still just love sitting out here talking about it. It's just, I don't know, it's something about it, just that passion, I guess.
Okay, how did I get my trail name Coach? A lot of people get trail names that are sort of earned on the trail. Mine, a little bit different. My guys that I've always camped around have always had a hard time giving me a trail name, I guess because I do nothing that's really outstanding. So in my part-time from my normal job, I actually coach a swim team. And I've got a great bunch of kids that swim for me. They all yell at me, call me Coach. So I guess my trail name came because I'm a coach. And that's something that Mustard Seed just kind of threw at me there. And a couple of the other guys that I've been around have called me Coach. So I guess my trail name comes from just something else that I do.
How did I get my trail name? Well, it's actually kind of a funny story. Mustard Seed comes from when I was back in Scouts. We were hiking on the AT up near Standing Indian, North Carolina, and we were on the trail, and it was me, 2 other guys, and 2 leaders. And as we were hiking along, I was just at the front, and I just kept pushing and pushing and, inching a little bit farther out and making everybody kind of catch up, and I was really supposedly hiking them into the ground. But at the time, I was only about 13 or so, and I was the smallest boy in the troop at that time. And so one of the old scout leaders said, he goes, "Man, you're just like a mustard seed. You're small but powerful. You pack a big punch." And so I guess it came from that at that time. I'm not the smallest one anymore, but the name still sticks. So I guess I'm Mustard Seed now.
Okay, my most memorable hike, and I could talk about this for hours on end because there was so much that went on this hike. Back when Mustard Seed and I were involved with the scout troop, we decided to take and do our own summer camp. We didn't normally go to the prescribed Boy Scout summer camp. So one year we decided that we were going to go to Standing Indian, North Carolina, and we were going to hike on the Appalachian Trail. The Appalachian Trail makes this really cool horseshoe shape, and it has a connector trail that sort of, if you can imagine, it connects the 2 parts of the horseshoe, and called the Kimsey Creek Trail, and then there's another little side trail that I cannot for the life of me remember the name of. But what you can actually do is you can base camp at the Standing Indian campground, and then you can hit one part of the little connector trail, get on the AT, make the horseshoe, come back around, catch the Kimsey Creek Trail, which is a beautiful trail, and connect back up, make it back to the base camp. The reason why this is so memorable is because really 2 or 3-fold. First of all, it was one of our first long backpacking hikes with the troop. When we prepared, we took them out for short hikes, some day hikes, even a couple of just real short overnighters just to get the boys ready. One thing that we did was we asked them not to take tents. So the guys camped in tarps, which was really cool and a little on the intimidating side for some of the boys, but I thought it was just totally badass that they decided to camp in tarps rather than a tent. A couple little memorable things that happened. One thing in a scout troop or on a backpacking trip like that, you always want to take and you want to shake the packs down of the guys that are going, because boys will inevitably take things along that they don't need to be taken along. Game Boys, radios, 15 or 16, AA batteries and things like that they really just don't need. A lot of extra food. So we get up the morning of the hike, and at base camp, we shake the packs down. We get ready to go. It's somewhere around 9 o'clock or so. We hit the trail. And we're a couple miles up the trail, and we decided we were going to take just a short little break, get a drink of water or something, and then continue on up the trail. So we get our water, we're standing around, we drink a little bit, we take about 5 steps back up the trail, and all of a sudden from behind us we hear this sound that you know exactly from at a moment's notice what it is, and it was a can being popped. It's just and so the other leader and I, we both turn around just real slow and look back, and here stands one of our scouts with a huge Monster Energy drink, and he looks at us and he goes, "What?" And we're like, "Are you kidding me? We shook your pack down. Where did you get this thing?" And he's like, "Well, I've got 3 others in my pack." We're like, "Well, we shook your pack down." He said, "Oh yeah, after y'all did that, I put I went and took it back to my tent and put those in there." So we have no idea how he got those things in there. We thought we were watching the packs, but somewhere along the way, he popped 4 Monster Energy drinks into his pack. So needless to say, for about the next 30 minutes to an hour, that kid hiked our butts in the ground. But then when he crashed big. And so he's sitting there and he's like, "Man, can we please take a break?" He was just totally out of it. He learned a very valuable lesson. We learned a very valuable lesson about shaking packs down at that time. Also on the trip, that night, the first night we get there to our first little camp, and I mean, it was just like right off the edge of the AT. I don't think we even made it to a shelter. And the boys set up their tarp and all, and they are so tired. It's somewhere around 7 o'clock or so. They're so tired, and a couple of them are like, "We want to go back to base camp." We're like, "Dude, we have hiked all day long, and now you decide you want to go back to base camp." So the other leader, he gets this idea. He takes out a map of where we are, and he throws the map to them. And he said, "Okay, find us a way back and we'll go." And they all just kind of look at the map, and there was a short little side trail. We had made this huge circle, and we were literally like less than a mile from base camp and all. But the boys were too tired to figure it out. And so they all, a couple of them had sort of teary eyes, and I kind of looked at Mustard Seed and I was like, "Dude, you might want to get with your buds and tell them that, we need to man up or cowboy up and get on down the trail in the morning." So that was a really, really cool hike. One of the coolest parts is not long after the little incident with the energy drinks, we made a turn onto the Appalachian Trail, and that was actually my first time that I had ever stepped foot on the AT. I had hiked all around the AT, but I had never been on the AT itself. And it was, I hate really using the word surreal. I don't particularly care because I think it's way overused as a word, but it was extremely surreal. And knowing the history and knowing of some of the people that had walked on that trail, and I didn't really say a lot to everybody, but it was just a very, very big moment for me to be hiking on the AT. We were only on it for about 20 to 25 miles, maybe, something like that. There wasn't much, but it was really cool. And along the way, we were passed by a southbound through hiker, and I use the term through hiker kind of loosely because he actually started in Harper's Ferry and was going to hike down to Springer Mountain, and then he was going to jump up to Katahdin and hike down to Harper's Ferry. So he was going to do every bit, but he was going to do it in 2 big sections. And we took a minute to talk to him about his trip, and I think it was really, really a cool point of that whole camp for the boys. I know it was really a cool point for me to meet a real through hiker, this guy and he was older than me at the time. He was, I would say, this this guy was probably in his late 40s, maybe early 50s, and just really cool guy. Took the time to stop and talk to the boys about his experiences so far, totally by himself, not hiking with a group. But man, when he was ready to be gone from us and he hiked off, there was nothing we could do to catch him. He was so quick on foot. The final day we get up and it's pouring rain. Because it's pouring rain, we didn't really fuel up like we should. We didn't fix a big breakfast. We started hiking in, went down the Kimsey Creek Trail, which was, like I told you before, just an incredibly beautiful trail. I'd highly recommend, even if it's just for a day hike, to go hike that trail. It's short, but it follows the Kimsey Creek and it is beautiful. We hiked in and we made it back to base camp right about time that my energy was just done. And I could see my pickup truck up the hill. And I remember telling Mustard Seed that I'm like, man, I can see the promised land, but I don't know if I'm gonna make it. And I dropped my pack right there and hiked, or right next to the little bathhouse in the campground, and hiked the rest of the way, which couldn't have been more than 1/8 of a mile, up to where the truck was. And one of my parents of the boys that was on the trip with us had a bunch of apples and oranges and some Gatorades and things like that, and I just sat there in the rain and refueled as fast as I possibly could. But such a cool trip. You know, I'd highly recommend it for maybe, you know, a single overnight, or we did it as 2 nights out, which was really great. The climb down Albert Mountain is rough because we went down. I can't imagine climbing up, being a thru hiker and coming up Mount Albert. Standing Indian was also a good, tough, you know, long climb up. Some achy legs and achy feet, but overall just an incredible, incredible trip.
My most memorable hike, probably another scouting story, when I was with the Boy Scouts and we went up to Chickamauga National Battlefield in North Georgia, and we decided while we were up there we were going to earn some merit badges on our own. And so we decided that we were going to do the hiking merit badge, and at that time, and it still may be that way, drop it in the comments below if you know, but you have to do 20 miles in a day. And at the time that we went, it was middle of June, end of June, July-ish, but it was summertime. And that day, the heat and the temperature got to 107 while we're trying to knock out our 20 miles. And so we had decided to turn it into just a day hike. And up at Chickamauga, there's trails that just weave all in and out throughout the battlefield with big monuments and statues and pillars and just everything to kind of commemorate the battle that did take place there. And so we decided we had figured out a path throughout the battlefield on how we can get 20 miles in a day. And so we loaded up some just quick little day packs and decided that, you know, we were going to set out early that morning. We're going to pound the dirt and we're going to hit it hard until we get that 20 miles in, and we're going to come back, fix dinner, and crash. And that was our plan, and we stuck to it. But it was definitely tough with 107 degrees. And I mean, essentially just hiking through fields of where the battle took place, and just that sun beating down on you. And up there, there are some horse trails, so there's a lot of horse flies up there, and they would attack. And I remember one particular point, we were walking down this trail after stopping for a quick water break at a memorial site, and as we're walking down through there, we see this big black thing laying across the trail, and it was just me and one other boy and Coach, who was our scout leader at the time, and we approached it very slowly and noticed it was just a big black snake. And so we just decided to step back, and he was covering the whole trail, so we decided to step back and just kind of watch it for a minute. Well, he went up into a dead stump, and as the last little bit of that black snake went down in there, all of a sudden we started hearing a rattle. And obviously he had gone down in a rattlesnake's nest, and when we heard that, all I remember is we all just took off running. We were not hanging around for whatever was fixing to take place there. But it was just a really eye-opening experience, being able to just really push for 20 miles all day in the blistering heat, carrying just a little bit of water, having to stop. There was a lot of jokes being made as we hiked, fun with the going and stopping and seeing the monuments and statues, a lot of stories being told along the way, and just really cranking it out. And it was a real eye-opening experience. But that was probably my most memorable hike, just being hot and doing 20 miles in a day in Chickamauga.
Okay, day hikes or overnight hikes, and why? I'm an overnight hike guy. I mean, I'm not here to offend day hikers. I think that any time that you can get out on the trail and put some miles in and see something that maybe you can't see on an average day, you need to take that opportunity and go do it, even if it is just for a short little, out and back for a mile or even a quarter of a mile to go see something that you haven't seen. Personally, I love being out away from everything and being overnight. Like anyone else, I can get a little nervous when it gets dark, and not knowing what's out there and all, but man, just camping overnight and going to sleep with the sounds of the forest, the crickets, the frogs, cicadas, anything like that, there's just something about it. And I definitely prefer to go out and stay at least a night. I would say the majority of my hikes have been that way. I've done some day hikes, and I enjoy them. I've seen some cool things, but there's nothing like waking up in the morning, rolling out of your tent and fixing that cup of coffee, or getting that breakfast first thing in the morning when you're just out in the middle of nowhere, and if you're beside a lake or whatever, seeing the fog that's over the lake. And yeah, I'm an overnight guy.
Do I prefer day hikes or overnight hikes? I'm definitely also an overnight kind of guy, but for a little bit different reason. Sure, I like staying under the stars and waking up in the morning, shaking the dew off the tent as you're packing up. But I'm more of I'd rather have a set A and a point B, and know that I need to get from point A to point B, and I've only got so many hours to do it. I really like that challenge, that push to, that you've got to hustle and get this done. And I've also liked the fact that in my mind, it's kind of a game. You're surviving, you're facing the elements. And so, yeah, you have to bring what you need to survive out there. Otherwise, unless you have survival skills or bushwhacking skills, you're going to face the elements. And so you've got to kind of toughen up and just hit it. But I like being able to go through that process of preparing and packing and knowing that I've got to get from point A to point B in so many hours, and not really knowing what's ahead, but knowing that I'm going to get there. And to do that, I have to rely on myself. So I guess I'm an overnight guy for the pure sense of I like a duration push. And nothing against day hikes. I do enjoy a day hike. My most memorable hike was a day hike. But I do like that carrying everything on your back and really just having to push through. And, nothing beats sleeping under the stars, staying under the stars, and waking up first thing in the morning with the nice cool breeze blowing.
Okay, 2020. What would I like to accomplish in 2020? I really want to go back a few years, and I'd like to pick up on that Standing Indian hike that the scouts did. And we were about maybe 2 miles or so from the Georgia state line. I'd love to go up there and pick it up and hike all the way down to Springer Mountain, and that would give me the entire state of Georgia on the AT. Of course, part of it will be to bring the trail family along with me. My plans are to make sure that part of this is to take the camera along with me and document it as I go. But yeah, I think my biggest trail or the biggest backpacking excursion that I want to take is probably doing the AT in the state of Georgia.
What are my plans for 2020? I am still in school, so I can't really commit to big grandioso backpacking excursions. So mine are pretty broad, but I'd like to say that for 2020 I would just like to hit some trails that I haven't been before, really get out and just experience kind of trails around Georgia, around the southeast. I would also, I'd love to expand it and invite the trail family along with me and along with Coach, and really just get to know you guys and really watch this channel flourish and, really form that trail family feeling, meet all my brothers and sisters on the trail. And so, yeah, mine's a little broad, but I would definitely just like to get out and kind of experience the southeast trails and hit some places I haven't been before. I think that's my plan for 2020.
Okay, folks, so you know a little bit about us, and now what I want to do is tell you kind of what our plans are for this channel and some things that we're planning in 2020 and upcoming in the future. One thing that we would like to do with this channel is we would like to take you along on some of our hikes. We'd also like to review some gear. In particular, we want to take a look at some more of the budget-minded gear. As you can know, with Mustard Seed being a student and I being a dad that's paying for a college student and all, we're very budget-minded and very budget-oriented. I am not by any means taking away from very high-end gear, because I think that just like the saying goes, when you hike your own hike, part of that is that you should be able to have equipment that you are comfortable with. And if you're comfortable with a $1,000 tent, that is perfectly fine. That's part of your hike. If you're comfortable with a $15 tent, that is perfectly fine. That's part of your hike, and you are hiking your own hike. So we're going to give you some ideas on equipment, both high-end and budget-minded, as part of this channel.
I know we also want to take some time and do some skills. We'll review some of the things that we feel are necessary when you're backpacking, some of the things you might want to see. And essentially the sky's the limit for this channel. And we really want to take you guys in the trail family along with us. So if you have a suggestion, or you have something you want to see, or you have a question, drop it in the comments below. Be sure to hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure to check off that bell notification button so you get alerted when we do post a video, which more are to come here in 2020. And even further, you can hit us up on Instagram at Trail Guyz with a Z, and just hit us up. Start a conversation, drop in our DMs, whatever you feel like. This is not just our channel, this is your channel as well. Hit us up if you want to go on a hike, or if you have any suggestions for something that you want to see or something you want to see us do. We're here for you guys.
Yeah, some of our next comments or our next subjects, I meant to say, for some of the upcoming videos are, what are our luxury items that we like to take along on the hikes with us? Here again, when you see my luxury item, it's going to be something that it goes right into that column of hiking your own hike, because I can promise you that when you talk to a lot of the ultralight hikers, they're going to say, absolutely not, I would not carry what Coach carries. It's totally unnecessary. And probably the same for Mustard Seed.
Absolutely.
A luxury item, here again, is something that it makes your hike comfortable and makes your trip comfortable. And in the end, it's all about enjoying your trip and enjoying your time in the outdoors. Okay? So with that, we're going to sign off. We've talked long enough. We hope we haven't hopefully we haven't bored you to death. We hope you learn a little bit about us. As Mustard Seed said, hit us up. Let us know what you would like to see us do with the channel. And Trail Fam, we hope to see you down the trail.